Tuesday, October 14. Tuesday, October 14. And our title for Tuesday, October 14 is Remember. Remember. And so we are going to read from Joshua chapter 4. And as we read Joshua chapter 4, we need to ask ourselves, why did God ask the Israelites to build a memorial? Why did God ask the Israelites to build a memorial? And so here we go. I'm going to read Joshua chapter 4 from the New King James Version. And the Bible says, "And it came to pass, when all the people had completely crossed over the Jordan, that the Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, Take for yourselves 12 men from the people, 1 man from each tribe, and command them, saying, Take for yourselves 12 stones from here, out of the midst of the Jordan, from the place where the priests' feet stood firm. You shall carry them over with you and leave them in the lodging place where you lodge tonight." Then Joshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the children of Israel, 1 man from every tribe. And Joshua said to them, "Cross over before the ark of the Lord your God unto the midst of the Jordan, and each one of you take up 1 stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, that this may be a sign among you when your children ask it in time to come, saying, What do these stones mean to you? Then you shall answer them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord when it crossed over the Jordan. The waters of the Jordan were cut off. And these stones shall be for a memorial to the children of Israel forever." And the children of Israel did so just as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones from the midst of the Jordan, as the Lord had spoken to Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, and carried them over with them to the place where they lodged, and laid them down there. 9. Then Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there to this day. So the priests who bore the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until everything was finished, that the Lord had commanded Joshua to speak to the people, according to all that Moses had commanded Joshua. And the people hurried and crossed over. Then it came to pass, when all the people had completely crossed over, that the ark of the Lord and the priests crossed over in the presence of the people, and the men of Reuben, the men of Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh crossed over armed before the children of Israel, as Moses had spoken to them. About 40,000 prepared for war crossed over before the Lord for battle, to the plains of Jericho. On that day, the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared him as they had feared Moses all the days of his life. Then the Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, "Command the priests who bear the ark of the testimony to come up from the Jordan." Joshua, number 17, Joshua therefore commanded the priests, saying, "Come up from the Jordan." And it came to pass, when the priests who bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord had come from the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of their priests' feet touched the dry land, that the waters of the Jordan returned to their places and overflowed all its banks as before. Now the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal. Then he spoke to the children of Israel, saying, "When your children ask their fathers in the time to come, saying, What are these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, saying, Israel crossed over this Jordan on dry land. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up before us until we had crossed over, that all peoples of the earth may know the hand of the Lord that is mighty, that you may fear the Lord your God forever. So that was Joshua chapter 4, and I read it from the New King James Version. So the explanation for Tuesday says, the purpose of these stones is to become a sign. The Hebrew term ot is often associated with the word wonder and can refer to miraculous acts done by God. And you can check out the yesterday's study, that is the Monday study. And so, such as the plagues on the Egypt, that is according to Exodus chapter 7 verse 3. Let us check out Exodus chapter 7 verse 3. What does Exodus chapter 7 verse 3 says? And it says, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. Let us also check out Deuteronomy chapter 4 verses 34. Deuteronomy chapter 4 verses 34, which says, 4:34 says, or did God ever try to go and take for himself a nation from the midst of another nation? By trials, by signs, by wonders, by war, by mighty hand, and an outstretched arm, and by great terrors according to you in Egypt before your eyes. Okay, then we check it. So we read, it also can carry the meaning of symbol or token as an outward sign of a deeper or transcendent reality. For example, the rainbow is a sign of the covenant. The blood on the doorposts and lintels of the Israelites' houses also is called a sign. So let us check out the rainbow is also a sign, and that we can check out from Genesis chapter 9 verse 12 to 13. Genesis chapter 9 verse 12 to 13 says, and God said, this is the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I set my rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be for the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Okay, and so the blood on the doorposts and lintels of the Israel's houses also is called a sign, and we can check out that in Exodus chapter 12 verse 13, which says, now the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. And most significantly, the Sabbath is a sign of creation and of God's sanctifying presence. And we check out that from Exodus 31:13. Exodus 31:13. Exodus 31:13 says, 31 verses 13, which says, here you go, 13. Speak also to the children of Israel, saying, surely my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you. And verse 17, it is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. And we also check out in Ezekiel chapter 20 verses 12. Ezekiel chapter 20 verses 12. Ezekiel 20 verses 12, which says, moreover, I also gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between them and me, that they might know that I am the Lord who sanctifies them. So here, the sign functions as a memorial, reminding each subsequent generation of the miracle of the crossing. The term memorial, that is zikaron, comes from the word zakah, that means to remember, which denotes more than a passive act of recalling something. It implies a remembering followed by a proper action. Let us check out Deuteronomy chapter 5 verses 15. Deuteronomy chapter 5 verses 15. Deuteronomy chapter 5 verses 15, which says, "And remember that you were slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there by a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day." And we can also check out Deuteronomy chapter 8 verses 2. Deuteronomy chapter 8 verses 2 says, "And you shall remember that the Lord your God led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble you and to test you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not." And so the setting up of stone memorials, that is according to Genesis chapter 28 verses 18 to 22. Genesis chapter 28 verses 18 to 22. Let us also check that out. Genesis chapter 28. Genesis chapter 28 verses 18 to 22, which says, "Then Jacob rose early in the morning and took the stone that he had put at his head, set it up as a pillar, and poured oil on top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of that city had been Luz previously. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, 'If God will be with me and keep me in this way that I am going, and give me bread to eat and clothing to put on, so that I come back in my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. And this stone which I have set as a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that you give me, I will surely give to you. I will surely give a tenth to you." That is according to Genesis chapter 28 verses 18 to 22. And rituals that triggered questions. That is according to Exodus chapter 12 verses 26. Exodus chapter 12 verses 26 and verses 27. And so verses 26 says, "And it shall be when your children say to you, 'What do you mean by this service?' that you shall say, 'It is the Passover sacrifice of the Lord, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when he struck the Egyptians and delivered our household.' So the people bowed their heads and worshipped." Okay, then Deuteronomy chapter 6 verses 20 to 25. Deuteronomy chapter 6 verses 20 to 25 says, "When your son asks you in time to come, saying, 'What is the meaning of the testimonies, the statutes and the judgments which the Lord our God has commanded you?' And verse 21 says, "Then you shall say to your son, 'We were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, and the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. And the Lord showed signs and wonders before our eyes, great and severe against Egypt, Pharaoh and all their household. Then he brought us out from there, that he might bring us in to give us the land of which he swore to our fathers. And the Lord commanded us to observe all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is this day. Then it will be righteousness for us if we are careful to observe all these commandments before the Lord our God, as he has commanded us." And so the setting up of the stone memorials, according to Genesis chapter 28 verse 18 to 22, and the rituals triggered questions, that is according to Exodus chapter 12 verse 26 to 27, and Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 20 to 25, was common in the Old Testament. Instead of repeating the miracles again and again, God establishes monuments that evoke the memory of his great acts and prompt meaningful answers. Therefore, the sign is to be there forever, implying the need to keep these miracles of the Lord in the collective memory of his people perpetually. The potential question of future generations is significant because it is formulated in a personal way. What are these stones to you? Each new generation must internalize and understand the meaning of these stones for themselves personally. The faith is a miracle-making God. The faith in a miracle-making God can be alive only if each generation rediscovers the significance of the mighty acts of Yahweh for themselves. I will repeat. The faith in a miracle-making God can be kept alive only if each generation rediscovers the significance of the mighty acts of Yahweh for themselves. Such a faith will make a major difference between living out faithfully Bible-based traditions and traditionalism, the dead religion deprived of its original value and favor of the living generation. In the end, we need to make our Bible-based faith our own. So in the end, we need to make our Bible-based faith our own. No one, especially our ancestors, can believe for us. I will repeat. We need to make our Bible-based faith our own. No one, especially our ancestors, can believe for us. So the big question is, what are some of the memorials, personal memorials from your own walk with the Lord that help you remember what he has done for you? The big question for Tuesday is, what are some of the memorials, personal memorials from your own walk with the Lord that help you remember what he has done for you? And that was Tuesday, October 14th. And the title for Tuesday, October 14th was Remember.